as we continue to celebrate this week International Women's Day, I have another fantastic guest to speak to today, an incredible lady called Madalina Tanase, who really has an incredible, empowering story to share. Just before we begin, Madalina, if you can tell us where you are, just out of interest right now.
Sure. First of all, hi, Ellen, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here. I am originally from Romania, but I live in Florida right now in US. I've been living in US for the past 20 years, so I'm a Romanian/American at this point. And
Fantastic.
also, happy International Women's Day for all of those strong, amazing women out there.
And you are definitely one of those, aren't you? So I'd love it if you could just tell me a little bit about your journey, which obviously you're in the process of writing a book about at the moment, but it really is an incredible story. So if you'd like to just, tell me a little bit about your journey, I'm going to literally hand the microphone over to you.
Wonderful. So I will try to keep it brief. Because, like you said, I've been writing a book about my journey for the last 40 years, but I'll start with about 20 years ago. So I graduated from a college in my hometown, Constanța of Romania. I graduated with a degree in French and English language and literature, and I worked as a teacher, as a middle school teacher in a local school in Constanța, where I taught English and French for 3 years. I absolutely loved my 3 years as a teacher, but then I was handed this amazing opportunity to come to the United States and study educational psychology. So about 20 years ago, I moved here to pursue this dream, the American dream, but also to pursue my education. So my first stop was in Iowa, of all the places. And I attended the University of Northern Iowa, and I graduated after 2 years with a degree with a master's degree in educational psychology. And then after that, I moved to Las Vegas for my doctorate degree. So I spent 5 amazing years in Vegas pursuing a PhD in teacher education. And then about 13 years ago, so after I graduated with the degree, I moved to Florida, Jacksonville, Northern Florida, quite unlike Miami, because usually when I say Florida, people think Miami, Orlando. So Jacksonville is a little bit different than that. And I've been teaching for the past 13 years at the University of Northern Florida, UNF, in the College of Education and Human Services. So I am a professor of education, and I'm teaching future teachers how to manage their classrooms, to develop lesson plans, educational psychology, that kind of stuff. So, so far so good with my journey. But about 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so I am a breast cancer survivor. I can say that happy right now. I've never had much of health issues growing up in Romania, or for those amazing 16 years in the United States, really have not had much of health issues. So this came as a shock to me because, first of all, like I said, I've been always a healthy individual. And then also I have not had anybody in my family, distant or close, with any kind of cancer. So to find out that I do have a tumor, that it is malign, and it is cancer, was a shocker to me. So that was literally 4 years ago in January of 2017 when I was diagnosed. And then after that, I lucked out in the way that I discovered it early. I found it, and then I went to the doctor. I was hoping that they would tell me it's really nothing. It's just whatever mass, you want to call it, cyst, but unfortunately it wasn't. So they confirmed my biggest fear. And I lucked out in the way that it was small, early, caught early. So it didn't develop into something that was invasive. And because of that, I did not need to have chemotherapy. So my 2 choices at that time were either radiation, which would have been the easier route, if you will, because it's about 6 to 7 weeks of radiation, only treating the affected breast, and then that's that. And then you just have to hope that it will not reoccur. Because with radiation, there is this 15% chance of reoccurrence. And that scared me a little, it's like, and also that one of the radiation specialist told me, if it comes back, it might not even come back in the breast. It might come back in another part of your body, and that just scared me. Like I don't want to have a tumor anywhere else or in my breast. So I went the more difficult way, and I chose to have a mastectomy. Originally, I was thinking, let's just have it on the affected breast, which for me was the right breast. But then at the same time, I was trying to become a mother, so I wanted to undergo in vitro fertilization treatments and all that. So I had to kind of just consider the bigger picture, and because of that, I decided to have a double mastectomy, so removing both breast tissue. Because otherwise, with the unilateral, so just on the affected breast, I would have had to go, I think, undergo treatment for 5 years on a pill. I'm not going to name the pill, but that would have completely killed my chances of becoming a mother. And so I went with the surgery. And long story short, I had 4 surgeries, 3 on my right breast and, 4 on my right breast and 3 on my left breast. The first one was to just eliminate the tumor, to eliminate actually the lump. The second one was to remove everything, the tissue and all that. And then the last 2 were actually just reconstruction, but each of them was difficult in its own way. Obviously, the most difficult one was the mastectomy, the double mastectomy, because I couldn't use my arms and all that. And it was just, the amount of pain is, words can't serve to describe that. But it's in the past right now, and I am following up with my doctor. I'm going every year for the checkup and all that, so everything is good. And I think if nothing, it made me stronger, and more appreciative of life and the opportunities, and really more appreciative of every day I get to live, wake up, and enjoy.
And it's just amazing to see how optimistic you are. Speaking to you now, it's just really, really incredible. I'd love it if you could tell me, from where I'm sitting, I couldn't even attempt to understand what you've been through, and it would be wrong for me to even suggest I could. But what kept you going? What gave you the strength to go through that? What do you think?
So, and a little bit of that, because we talked about the book I'm writing, but initially, what helped me going were 3 things. My faith was number one. I was a hardcore believer Christian, going to church every Sunday, singing in the choir, praying at home, that kind of a girl. So that kept me going. I had a really good relationship with the priest. We have actually a Romanian church here in Jacksonville, which is fantastic, to just go and listen to the service in your language. So the priest was a big part of that journey, the original journey, where I knew that, I can't handle it by myself, because it felt overwhelming at the time. I made the mistake, which I wouldn't recommend to anybody, to keep this a secret from my family in Romania, because of the distance, because of I couldn't just figure out how to have this conversation with my mother over the phone. I have a very special relationship with my mother, both my parents. So it was really difficult for me. And I knew that my mother was going to visit me in Florida in March. So for 2 months, I just kept it a secret. And it was absolutely horrible, the burden to bear, because it wasn't just my emotions and, why is this happening to me? But it's also like, okay, now I have to put on a nice face, and so that my mom doesn't read me. So the faith, it was like knowing that the priest is always there and I can talk to him and he would lift me up, and, God was a big part of my life. The second part was family. So I did keep it a secret from from the most important members of my family, my parents, but I did confide in a couple of cousins because I felt like somebody needs to know about me. So that kept me going. My cousins were praying for me constantly. And then, and it's not in necessarily in this order, God, family, and friends, but friends were also a huge support. I think I'm lucky enough, to have an amazing support system here in Jacksonville, and I have my dear friends in Romania as well. But here in Jacksonville, and I just call them my sisters because they ultimately, became my sister in those 13 years. So they were a big support. Would listen to me because you're talking about my optimism, and trust me, I had my dark moments, when I just felt like I can't. This is too much. I can't, and I was depressed and. At that time I just didn't really believe much in I should look for help. Somebody needs to help me. I need to go and find a counselor or a therapist or something. I guess the Romanian in me is like, I can't fix my own problems. I don't need anybody to tell me how to fix them. So that's how it started. And then down the road, eventually, I kind of just grew out of my faith, and so there is a little bit of a disconnect right now with my faith and my belief in God, but the family and friends are still the constants.
That's really, really fantastic. So one of the things that comes out of then is for anybody sort of faced with a situation like yours is to share the burden, yeah, to share it, especially with the people closest to you. That's something that's come up over the course of this week several times, is sort of this theme that you're never on your own. Whatever you're going through, you're never on your own. And that's come up in a few conversations I've had. Is there any particular advice you would give to any women who are sort of faced with a diagnosis like you had?
Yes. So number one would be a reminder that you don't have to go through this alone. It's already a lot. Just hearing the word, it's so scary to hear the word cancer, C, the C word. And then that alone is a lot. So you don't have to put the worries of like thinking about your family and all that. That is a moment when really is about you. It's all about you. And I don't want to sound selfish, but really you should think about you. And the more people I told, after I told my mother, I felt this big weight lifted. And then I could open up with the rest of my family and all that. And yeah, the stuff was still there. The cancer was still there. I had my mastectomy in May, so January through May. It was like a weight gain. But those months, March, April, and beginning of May, it was already like, okay, I'm approaching the end. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I made my plans. I know what's going to happen. And I don't have to worry about what if my mother accidentally finds out? What if my father finds out and stuff like that? So I would say reach out to people. Don't keep it inside because bottled up emotions have a way of showing up in the most unexpected way. In my case, I just had like a couple of days before my surgery a fight with my mother. And it was nothing of what she said or did. It was just because I couldn't manage those emotions anymore, and they had to come out somehow. So reach out to family. Don't shelter them, and also friends. You will never believe how many friends, after I shared, started to open up to me that they've gone through the same things. And I think that in a very ridiculous and sense of humor kind of way, at the same time I was going through this, one of my best friends, who was my roommate when I moved to Iowa, we are both from the same neighborhood, literally in Romania, and we just came here together and we roomed for 2 years in Iowa. But at the same time, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. She was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and then a month later with breast cancer. So I can literally say she was my biggest support because with all of my other friends, I could talk, but with her in particular, she knew exactly what I was going through.
That's really quite amazing, and it's so great to hear that you are both, survivors. You're both healthy. If you don't mind me asking, I think cancer generally, a cancer diagnosis for anybody, it's a really terrible thing. It's something that's really hard to comprehend. I've experienced cancer in my family. My mother had an advanced cancer. She's also a survivor, but in certain cases, like what you've described, yourself and your friend, we're talking about cancer that is not just cancer as a disease, but it's really threatening what it means to be a woman, isn't it? It must, challenge you to really question everything about being a woman. How did you find that? How did you manage to sort of find a way through that? It must be incredibly difficult.
I think it was just like taking it one day at a time. It was because really for me, I mentioned earlier that at the time I was diagnosed, I was actually getting ready for IVF treatments. So that came to a complete stop for me because the doctor said we can't do anything right now, just in case you need surgery and all that. And little did I know I would have 4 types of surgeries. And also the thought of becoming a mother when I was very scared for my life just became a second, like an afterthought, like, okay, well, if that happens. But then also, like, it was still always in the back of my mind. So all the decisions I made, it was like, I'm not going to go on the pill because that's minus 5 years and I'm already 45. I'm not ashamed to share this. So I was 41 at the time, and that would have put me to 46. And I didn't know that I'd still be here, still trying to become a mother. But I was thinking in 5 years, losing 5 years of potentially being a mother, because time is cruel, right? Especially for women who want to become mothers at an older age. So it was all that, like, I don't want to get to be on the pill because I want to be a mother maybe in a couple of years. And then it was like, well, do I want to have unilateral or bilateral mastectomy? So bilateral meant I had to give up completely breastfeeding forever and ever. So it was all of those ramifications of, oh, okay, but then maybe that's not the biggest. So if I just had to keep in mind the bigger picture, which was me being healthy first of all, and then me still being able to become a mother. And then if I don't get to breastfeed, oh well, at least I'm healthy and I can be a mother. So coming back to that, I actually tried. I had 2 artificial inseminations a year ago, and a few months ago I had an IVF, and they were unsuccessful, the 3 of them. But I don't think that's the end for me. I don't feel like that's the end of the road. So I'm just going to keep pushing. So I think it's just one day at a time and keeping in mind the bigger picture. And also, like, every time I hear about someone else's experience and all that, I know it's not good to compare, your situation with someone else's situation, but I do compare. And for me, that comparison puts things into perspective in a way that, I think it could have been so much worse. And I was really lucky, that I only had to go through surgeries, but I didn't have to go through, because my friend I was mentioning had to go through surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation.
Wow.
So I'm just, trying to be grateful that I've been handed an easier, situation to deal with. But at the same time, it's always in the back of my mind, but why? Why did it happen still? I wish that it never happened, and I don't wish that on anybody. I think when the doctor confirmed and when she said, we feared it's cancer, a part of me was hoping that the next sentence coming out of her mouth would be, but it isn't. But then she said, and we were right, it is. I was in shock. I experienced with those stages of grief, right? Like shock, denial, and all that stuff. So denial, and then bargaining, and anger, and I went through all of them, and finally, came to acceptance. But I think acceptance takes a lot of time. Here I am 4 years later, still having those questions, but why? But why me,
But I think, what's incredibly inspiring is that after all of that, you can sit with gratitude and be grateful for what you have. That's just an amazing, amazing thing. Just your story is incredibly inspiring I think, to anybody. It's certainly for me, it's a moving and inspiring story, which, I believe, that the world needs to hear. It's something, quite incomprehensible for somebody like myself who's never been anywhere near that kind of experience, but truly, truly amazing. And you talk about faith or belief, and I think whatever you believe in, having some kind of spiritual backup system, I think, is really, really powerful, isn't it? Whatever that may be, but having that, sort of spiritual guide beyond yourself can be really, really helpful. But it's just a truly amazing story. So if you don't mind me asking, then where do you see yourself in the future? What would where do you want to go from here?
So, like I said, I don't feel that that's the end of my motherhood dream. Call me crazy, but I will try again. And this is for the listeners out there who may not necessarily be in US. The process here is incredibly expensive, the IVF process. So I know in Europe it's much, much cheaper and all that, but money, I'll make the money again. But it's very important for me to keep at it and try again. Ellen, nothing ever came easy for me in this life. I really had to fight for everything I've got, for coming to the States, for finding a job here when I didn't know anybody and I was nobody. So I had to fight for literally everything. Nothing ever came easy. I was not handed anything in life that I didn't have to work really hard for. And I think that this was my salvation in the end, because it's like, okay, I don't expect anything to come easy. I have to work for it. And that's why I'm going to just be perseverant and try IVF. So I want to say I see myself as a mother. And I'm really hoping that my biggest dream will come true. If it doesn't, it's going to be painful, but it is not the end of the world. I see myself continuing to teach. It's a calling, I think, and I'm not teaching my middle schoolers anymore. I'm teaching college right now, but I absolutely love what I'm doing. It's one of the most amazing jobs, and I have, and they laugh when I call them, but I have my babies. I have hundreds and hundreds of children, and they make me proud. So, and I hope that I get COVID aside, right, the opportunity to be a little closer or more closer to my family, because I was not able to travel for the past 2 years, and I really, really miss everybody. All my family is in Romania right now, so I am here and they are there, and it's difficult. So I'm hoping to be able to travel and really spend some quality time with them, because life is short and unpredictable.
And certainly after an experience like yours, it must be all the more valuable, that time with the people who really matter. I think something that, jumps out of me from what you've told me as well, and it's relevant for everybody, but I think especially women, because women are faced with so many more challenges. We have to be honest about that. Life is harder for women, but to live for your dreams, to never give up on your dreams, whatever they are, whatever life does throw in the way. But to see that you have held on to your dreams and you continue to pursue your dreams, I think that's just a really, really, encouraging, uplifting, empowering statement. And I hope that can inspire other listeners as well to never, ever give up on their dreams.
Now keep pushing through. And I had a bracelet, I don't have it on, but I have a bracelet that spoke to me and I bought it. Sometimes things like that happen with the women, but this one in particular had a little lemon was the sign, and it said, when life gives you lemons. It's a little cheesy, but when life gives you lemon, you make lemonade. I don't really like lemonade or lemons, but by golly, I'm making myself a glass of lemonade, with trying for IVF yet again. And I will not give up until I feel like, okay, you know what, I gave it my best shot, and I gave it the best fight I got, and I feel I'm ready to just say I'm done now. But I am not done for now.
Wow, what an incredible, inspiring story. thank you so much for sharing your story today. It's been incredible listening to you. I look forward very much to work with you more in the future. I wish you the absolute best of luck in making these dreams happen. And I certainly believe that you're going to make your dreams happen. But once again, thank you for the bravery to share what you've shared with me today and to share that with our listeners and viewers. I appreciate it. And I wish you the very best.
Thank you so much, Alan. The very best to you and to all of our listeners. Don't give up on your dreams and just keep fighting the fight. You are definitely stronger and braver than you give yourself credit for.